morning and welcome to Unity of Wilmington's hybrid service. My name is Myron McNeil. Oops. And we're glad that you're all here, especially the newcomers. We'd like to remind you of 3 important truths. One, that you are a beloved expression of God. The divine is dancing through you right now. And 2, you're here for a holy purpose. That's why I'm here. Yes, yes, yes. And 3, you're always in the right place at the right time. Right now.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you could reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found. Be found. There's a place where you don't have to feel unknown. Every time that you call out, you're a little less alone. If you only say the word from across the silence, your voice is heard. Oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
Paul Teal, Katie Deese, Jon Hill, Justin Lacy, and all of you who are with us right here, right now, and whenever you watch it, you're still present with us, because you know we really make up time. You will be found. What a beautiful message. What a beautiful statement of truth. You will be found. You are found. We were never lost, but sometimes we feel lost. And this past couple of years has perpetuated that for us in some ways, that feeling of being lost. And yet we are not. Look around you. I just want you to take a moment and look at the faces around you and see that here are people to support you. And if you're at home, imagine people in the room with you. You can bring forth your ancestors, you can bring forth your family, you can bring forth in your imagination anyone you like, and imagine them with you on this beautiful journey we call life. And it can be a beautiful journey when we practice the principles that we teach here in Unity, the greater principles of higher wisdom. What a joy to be with other people. What a joy to know that we are not alone, even in the midst of the times that we do feel alone. What we're talking about today particularly is finding our way and finding the way within. And I want to talk about this from the perspective of the prodigal son. You may have heard that. Oops, it's not working, Chris, would you? You may have heard that story before. It's found in the Gospel of Luke. Jesus told this story. He told a series of parables, teaching stories. And this was the third in a series, and 3 is a time of completion metaphysically. So this story was told as a third story, so a way of completing a thought. Then as the story goes, there was a father who had 2 sons. He had 2 sons. He had an older son and a younger son. And the younger son came to the father one day and said, I would like to have my inheritance, and I'd like to have it early. Typically in Jewish families, the inheritance came after one died. The oldest son got 2/3, and the younger son would get 1/3. But there were circumstances and times when the custom was shifted or changed. And in this case, the father was willing to do that. So he liquidated his assets. He gave the younger son his portion of his inheritance. And the younger son hung around home a few days and got ready, to go, and went to what's called a far country, which metaphysically implies far away, but in a land that was very different from what he had grown up with. So he went to a far country. And the story, as it goes on, leads us to believe that he went to a place where there were a lot of Gentiles and not a lot of Jews. So here's somebody who'd grown up in one culture who's going to learn how to live in another culture. And think about yourselves. Have you ever changed cultures in that way, and what it was like, and the new and exciting things you wanted to try, and the things that maybe you were afraid of, and the things that you were just curious about? So put yourself in that younger son, exploring, experiencing the world, having a great time. And while the younger son was there, having a great time in this place, in this far-off country, he had used the money. He had gone through the money, his inheritance of his father. And there came about the same time, and you know how this happens sometimes, he'd come to the end of his finances, and a famine came. And he didn't really know what to do, so he tried to look for jobs. And he was not a local boy, so to speak. He wasn't from around there. He was different. And so you might think that finding a job, if we read between the lines, could have been a little bit difficult for him. And he was committed to working, so he found a job. He found a job with a man who had a farm, and the man had pigs, so we know then that it's a Gentile, because a Jewish farmer would not have had pigs. And so the younger son of this wealthy man began to slop the pigs, feed the pigs, and he was so hungry. And the person he worked for was not one who fed his employees. They weren't servants. They didn't live there. They had their own place. And this younger son, we don't ever know his name, but this younger son was incredibly hungry. He became so hungry that he was willing to eat the corn cobs that he was feeding the pigs. I personally have never been there literally, so it's difficult in some ways to imagine. And yet I've felt like at times I've been there emotionally. But basically what happened is the younger son hit what we would call rock bottom. And he's slopping the pigs, he's feeding the pigs their corn cobs, and he's considering, I want to eat one of them. I really want to eat one of them because I'm so hungry. And what emerges in him is a thought. My father has servants. I could go home and I could ask my father if I could become one of his servants. A new thought, a new idea. And it excited him so much that he started the journey home. He started the journey home. And as he was still in a far off distance, not yet home, not yet to his father's place, the father saw him coming down the road. And remember, this is a desert, so you're going to see the dust that somebody's making with their footfalls. And the father sees him and he rushes out to meet him. And the younger son falls on his knees and says, Father, may I please come back? I have sinned against heaven. May I come back as your servant? And the father stops in there, says, be quiet, stand up. Stand up and be your whole self. And he turns to his servant. The father turns to his servant and he says, bring a robe, the finest robe you can find. Bring a ring. And a ring symbolizes authority and stature. And bring some shoes. For in those days when you've walked a long way, you're going to need some shoes. And then the father opens his arm and welcomes him home. And then he tells the other servants, go get a fatted calf and let's prepare it for a celebration. We're going to party tonight. We're going to party tonight. That son that I thought was dead has come home. And the older son was working in the field. And he heard from the servants that the younger son had come home and that there was going to be a celebration. Imagine what it would feel like if you were the younger son. You had stayed. You had helped your father. You had spent years working with your father, doing the things that your father needed done. And you hadn't asked for a party. You hadn't asked for anything. You just kept doing what you believed you needed to be doing. And here comes younger brother. I don't know if you guys ever had brothers and sisters, but here comes younger brother off living wild, as some of the translations of the Bible say. And he's getting a party. What's going on that he's getting a party? And look at all I've done. Have you ever had that feeling for yourself? Look at what I've done. Sometimes our sense of responsibility, sometimes our sense of rightness, of doing the right thing, can shift over in moments of intense feeling and move to self-righteousness. Hey, that's no fair. Have you ever said that in your life? Hey, that's no fair. That's just not fair. And yet it was what was. And so the older son comes and he finds his father, and the father's like so excited. So already they're in different places, right? One is like indignant and self-righteous, and the other is excited and celebrating. So they're in different places emotionally. So here comes the younger son. Your son, he says to the father, your son went away and squandered your wealth. Look what he did. And you're welcoming him back with a celebration, with a party. Can you imagine what the father felt like in that moment? And can you imagine what the older son felt like? Maybe you've been on both sides of that fence at times. And the father responded to the son, your brother. Not my son, but he responded to the older son as your brother. Your brother has returned, and this is something to celebrate. In his very words, the father ended the separation. He was no longer just my son, but he was your brother. Bringing family back together, recalling that relationship that we have amongst our family members. So there's a moment, can you imagine? There's just this beautiful, beautiful moment of celebration, and we have it going on here already. It's really kind of cool. I love how the universe works, because if we had tried to orchestrate music playing at that time, it would have been impossible. You know, these are the things that you just can't make happen. But it does. Celebration happened in this room with music in this moment. The Prodigal Son is an amazing story that Jesus shared with people. We are each of those characters. We are the father, we are the older son, we are the younger son. We are Jesus, the I am within us, who's telling the story. So what does it represent? A famine represents metaphysically that we are not holding our faith in God to prosper. So when we're in that place of famine, we're feeling like we're separate. We're not holding our faith. We're not standing in the faith that all is well. Even in the midst of what doesn't look so well, and there's many times in life things don't look so well. So what do we need to do? We need to come home. The Father's home represents living consciously. This could be the mother's home. This could be the father's home. This could be the home that you have created. Sometimes we've had difficult times with our mothers or our fathers, and so it's hard to think about coming home to them. But let it be that come home to that place that you've created in your own life that feels safe, that feels secure, that feels empowering to you, that where you walk in, you are so happy and proud to be. And you're like coming home to that place. The Father represents spiritual law, principle, God, whatever you want to call it, where the open arms are welcoming us, no matter where we've been or what we've done. And most people I've ever talked to feel like they've been in a place in their life where they hit rock bottom, and they've wondered if they can come out of it. And maybe you've been there too. I know I certainly have been there. And yet what I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, that when I apply spiritual principle, when I live as Jesus lived, then things begin to shift and things begin to change. And there's an uplifting of my outlook, and I'm no longer in that place of family. I've been found, as the song says. In those moments where I feel alone, I can remember that I am not ever alone, because within me and all around me is love. Within me and all around me, when I'm open and available to it, is love, is the presence of God within us. And so as we open to that, we can remember, and then we can call upon our friends in our spiritual community. We can call upon our family to help us to remember that we are capable and able to live life as fully as possible. In unity, we follow the steps of Jesus. We follow the behaviors and the ways of Jesus. And Jesus taught first, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind. But seek first God, to love God. Chris, it's still not working. Would you change it? Did I turn it on? Nope, I didn't turn it on. So now it'll probably work. Love God, your God. This is from both Matthew and Deuteronomy. Love God, your God, with your whole heart. Love God. God is within us. Love God with our whole heart. Love God with all that's in us. Love God with all you got. And this is a more modern day translation. Love God with all you've got. And when we're loving God with all we've got, when we're being the love of God with all we've got, then we're meeting, we're seeing, we're interacting with the love of God and all God's got. You're sitting here and you're on the live stream. You're on the video if you're watching it later. That's why I want you to look around again. And if you're sitting in a room alone, just look at me. But look around again and see the folks that are loving you, whether they know you in anything other than spirit. Because we are love, when we get next to each other, there is a recognition of love. And I put Deuteronomy in here because I want you to know, I want you to understand that Jesus was not making something up. Jesus was teaching something that was already being taught. Deuteronomy is part of the Torah. Jesus was a Jewish man who had studied the Torah. So he's coming forth and reminding people to love, but he's doing it in a little bit different way. He's doing it in a radical way. Because Jesus is not teaching this from a place of judgment. Oh, you went off and you spent all your money. You made your bed and now you've got a lie in it. There's no judgment coming from the Father to the Son. There is welcoming and there's restoration and there's a call to restore families to families. Your brother, not my son, your brother. The welcoming home. And Jesus is inviting us to learn how to come home to ourselves first, to come home with love to ourselves. So since we are each of the characters, when you have done something that you get mad at yourself about, do you come home to yourself with love or do you come home to yourself with judgment and criticism? How do you come home to yourself? I have to say, I got some judgment and criticism that goes on at times. I got some self-doubt that goes on at times. But what I want to do, and I'm doing in life as I'm living, as I'm learning how to apply principle, is I'm learning how to come home less and less with the judgment and criticism. And when I say coming home, talking about coming home to our hearts. Coming home to self-love, because we are love. Because God is within us and we are love. So learning how, no matter what's happened in our lives, no matter what we've done, being welcomed home. So turn to somebody and say, welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to a spiritual community. Welcome home to the love that's available to us when we're willing to practice the principle of love. When we're willing to step forth in love and say, oh, you know, I've made some mistakes like that too. To be willing to love ourselves enough to say, no, please don't treat me that way. I won't allow it. I'm going to walk away now because I love myself enough to love myself and be inviting other people to love me in a way that's respectful, in a way that's got kindness. Love has boundaries. There was a party. There's always a party going on in life. Are you welcome to come to the party? Are you welcoming yourself to come to the party? And if you're not welcoming yourself to come to this party of life, how are you organizing yourself? Not from a place of judgment, but from a place of observation, generous, loving observation. How are you organizing yourself to be out of the party? How am I organizing myself to be the older brother? And if you recall, this isn't the first time Jesus talked about this type of dynamic. And remember, in Jesus' mind, we were all brothers and sisters in Christ. Because in Mary and Martha's story, where one was sitting at the feet of the master teacher learning and the others in the kitchen preparing food, one comes out and says, hey, say something to her. Say something to her because she's not doing it right. She's not doing it right because she's not doing what I think I should be doing. And what was Jesus' response? She's sitting at the feet of the teacher. She's sitting in spiritual substance. She's getting exactly what she needs. And you too could step into that spiritual substance and receive exactly what you need. We are the ones that limit God. Spiritual principle is unaffected by human behavior. Spiritual principle is unaffected by human behavior. So whether we're the older son or the younger son or the father, spiritual principle is simply love. And spiritual principle is waiting, if spiritual principle could wait. But spiritual principle allows us to fall like the younger son into famine, if that's what we need to wake up, to get up, and to do something different, to come back into alignment with who and what we are. And the beautiful thing is, spiritual principles welcoming us the moment we get back into alignment. The moment we even start toward alignment, our lives begin to change. And by alignment, it comes with our thoughts and our feelings. What am I thinking? Am I thinking famine? Am I thinking fear, which is the lack of faith? Am I thinking about that all the time? Am I stuck in that in my life? Or am I remembering who I am and I'm going someplace to get some assistance, or I'm reading a book to get some assistance, or I'm taking a walk in nature to see the beauty around me so I can come back into this place and go, yes, I have faith in nature. Because if nature is prospering, I too can prosper. And we're not talking financially here. We're talking about all kinds of ways. We can prosper in love. We can prosper in friendship. We can prosper in the fact that we get up in the morning and experience joy. We can prosper in the fact that the moment we feel alone, we can come back to a place where we remember who we are, and we can reach out to somebody and make that connection. Your brother, your sister, your friend, your family member, your favorite book, your favorite song. What does it take to bring you back into that awareness of the power that lies within you already? And your willingness to take the first step. And your willingness to not judge yourself, to really love yourself for having been where you've been. Sometimes we forget that part of what brought us to this moment is the experiences that we have had before this moment. And so we must learn to love those experiences as we love ourselves. To love that those experiences brought us to this moment of loving ourselves. And some of them I don't like. Some of them, they weren't fun. But remember, love is to be present with. To not deny the experience, but to say, I must have needed this. Or what in me, this is my favorite way to ask myself, what in me required that experience? And when I can get that kernel of truth, what in me required that experience, then I can make a shift and not need to require it again. Or if I do, I say, oops, I must have needed it again. And then I keep on going, but I do it from a place of love. I do it from a place of love, from the place of the Father, God, principle, whatever term works for you, welcoming me with authority. Authority that says you have all that you need within you. When you begin to live it, I will fully be right here being principle. Just like gravity will be gravity no matter what we do. And two will always be four no matter what we do. So those principles at work in our lives, I believe that's what Jesus was teaching. You can come home to yourself. You can come home no matter where you've been or what you've done. And the welcoming arms of Spirit will be there for each and every one of us. So some questions to ask ourselves, some things to kind of give reflection to. Katie, will you start playing, please? Some time to give reflection to. What in my life is pulling my attention away from God? What in my life is pulling my attention away from God? For me, sometimes I get super busy. And sometimes it's easier to be super busy than it is to sit and reflect. Because sometimes when I sit and reflect, the sadness will emerge. The grief will emerge. But when I can love that sadness and I can love that grief, remember love as being present with, then I can be with it. And I can allow it. And emotions are simply energy that are moving through us, and they're looking for the ability to continue to move. Emotion, energy in motion. And as they move, as we allow them to move, they keep going. And eventually, that sadness will come back to our natural state of joy. And it may take a little time, but as we practice this, it takes less and less and less time. And maybe it's anger that you're sitting with. And maybe you're judging yourself. Have you ever gotten mad at yourself for being mad? I have. And so then I have two levels to work through. An expression of that in some way that's not harmful to myself or other. Creativity, drawing, singing, dancing, movement. Taking a brisk walk, being by the ocean and letting it go. All of those can serve us. It can serve us in allowing the human part of us, which is an amazing part of us. Remember, there is something radically right about each and every one of you. And yes, we're going to have experience, and yes, we're going to have emotions, and yes, there are some times that don't feel as good as other times. But in the midst of that, there is something radically right about each and every one of us on this planet. And when we can come home to that, that's what the younger son was coming home to. A father. Jesus called him Father. Some people say God and I are one because they don't like the connotation of father. And Jesus called him Father not to delineate a relationship as father-son, but to really talk about the feeling. Somebody who feels like family. We're one with the universe. We're one with each other. Removing the separation and knowing that we are not separate from the God within us. And we are not separate from the universe. And we know this because when butterflies move in Africa, something happens here. There's this level of wave and particle that moves. And am I using spiritual principle to create my best life? Am I using spiritual principle to create my best life? thoughts and feelings held in mind produce thoughts and feelings that are similar. And then we draw ourselves to that feeling. Neville Goddard used to say, feel it. The feeling is the blessing. Feel it. Feel the joy. Feel the desire. Because a desire that comes from God has the possibility and potentiality to be manifested. It may take time. It may take energy. It may take us moving through the obstacles and the blocks that are in our way, but to stay with it, to continue along that path, and to know beyond a shadow of a doubt with our faith that it will happen, it will unfold, and it will unfold in the right time, right place. It might not be right now, but it will be the right time and right place because we are beloved expressions of God. So if you're interested, I have an affirmation for us here. I'm willing to go within. This takes our work. It takes us engaging in spiritual practice. I'm willing to go within to discover how to love with all my heart. How to love with all my heart. And to know all that God is, I am. I'm going to say it again. I'm willing to go within to discover how to love with all of my heart and to know all that God is, I am. To come home to the place of living consciously. To come home to the knowingness that we will always be found within ourselves as love. So if you're interested in this, say this with me, please. I am willing to go within to discover how to love with all of my heart. And I know all that God is, I am. Let's take this into a time of meditation. All that God is, I am. All that God is, you are. All that God is every capacity, every faculty, every power of God is within us now. Are we willing to feel the blessing? To feel the blessing? Are we willing to learn to love with all our hearts? Are we willing? And if I'm not willing, am I willing to be willing? And as we stand on the precipice of this question that we're floating in our mind's eye, let yourself love yourself for even asking yourself the question. And if you're struggling with loving yourself, think about someone you love beyond a shadow of a doubt and love yourself that much. Love God with all your heart. And let's learn how to love each other in very healthy, intelligent ways, using wisdom with all our hearts. And let's give thanks for the love that is available to each of us in this and every moment when we're open and willing. All we ever have to do is ask. Ask and it is given. Ask. Where two or more are gathered. And here we are. And even if you're sitting at home alone, you are with us in our hearts today. Let us be with you in your heart today. Let us know that time and space and distance mean nothing to God, because the fullness of God shows up in every moment, always. And then allowing ourselves to come back to this room, to this place, to celebrate ourselves, to celebrate love, to celebrate being able in this moment to be here in this room, to be here on live stream, to say thank you to the technology, to know that as we step forward in this moment, we go in a new way, in a new light. And we have an ability to utilize the spiritual principle to create the life of our dreams. Let's do it together.
I saw the sun begin to dim and felt that winter wind blow cold. A man learns who is there for him when the glitter fades and the walls won't hold. 'Cause from that rubble, what remains could only be what's true. If all was lost, there's more I gained, 'cause it led me back to you. And from now on, these eyes will not be blinded by the lights. From now on, what's waited till tomorrow starts tonight. Tonight, let this promise in me start like an anthem in my heart. From now on, from now on. I drank champagne with kings and queens. The politicians praised my name. Those were someone else's dreams, the pitfalls of the man I became. For years and years, I chased their cheers at a crazy speed of always needing more. But when I stop and see you here, I remember who all this was for. Tomorrow starts tonight. It starts tonight. Let this promise in me start like an anthem in my heart. From now on, from now on, from now
touched, moved, or inspired today by the message today, we really appreciate your generosity. You can give online at unitywilmington.com or on Venmo, or just write a check. Thank you.
Thank you, Myron. This is Myron McNeil, our board president, Paul Teal, Justin Lacy, Jon Hill, Katie Deese, and all of you make it possible to love with all of your heart. And if you mess up and you find yourself like the younger son, you got to come home to your heart, do it again. Love with all your heart again and see what begins to come back to you. And have as much fun as you can while you're doing it.
From now on, these the light.